When the lawyer said Grandpa had left me nothing but a rundown house and $12, the entire room burst into laughter. My dad laughed the loudest. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "Looks like Grandpa finally showed everyone what you're really worth." I smiled, picked up the $12 and walked away. But less than 24 hours later, that same man was standing at my front door terrified, because of something hidden inside those $12. Something Grandpa had planned years before his death. And when I finally uncovered the truth, my father's life would never be the same again. Before I tell you what happened, let me know in the comments where you're watching from today. I love reading your comments, and if you enjoy family stories filled with secrets, betrayal, and shocking twists, don't forget to subscribe. My name is Evelyn Carter, and I'm 67 years old. This story began on a cold October morning, the day my grandfather's will was read. The lawyer's words echoed in my mind the entire drive home. A rundown house and $12. That was all Grandpa had supposedly left me. Meanwhile, my brother Marcus had received the savings account. My sister Vanessa had received investments. And somehow, everyone in the family believed I was the loser. But Grandpa had never done anything without a reason. That was why I couldn't stop thinking about those $12. Especially that old $1 bill. After finding Grandpa's notebook in the attic, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the final page. The serial number on the bill matched the number written in the notebook exactly. Underneath it, Grandpa had written, "Only Evelyn will understand the truth." My hands began to shake. I turned the page. There was only one sentence. "Start at Willow Creek." Willow Creek. The old house. The same house everyone had mocked. I looked at the clock. It was almost 9 at night. Most people would have waited until morning. I didn't. Grandpa was trying to tell me something, and I intended to find out what it was. 30 minutes later, I was driving down a lonely dirt road toward the abandoned property. The place looked even worse than I remembered. Broken windows, peeling paint, a sagging porch. If you had seen it, you would have thought it should be demolished. But Grandpa had loved that house. He bought it before I was born. As I stepped inside, dust filled the air. Moonlight streamed through the broken glass. The house was silent. Almost too silent. For a moment, I wondered if I was being foolish. Then I remembered the notebook. I switched on my flashlight and began searching. Room by room. Drawer by drawer. Nothing. An hour passed. Then another. Still nothing. I was about to give up when I noticed something strange in Grandpa's old study. One floorboard looked newer than the others. My heart started racing. I knelt down, tapped the wood. It sounded hollow. I found a crowbar in the garage and carefully lifted the board. Underneath was a small metal box. For several seconds, I simply stared at it. Could this really be what Grandpa wanted me to find? Slowly, I opened it. Inside was a yellow envelope and a brass key. Nothing else. No money, no treasure. Just a key. I almost laughed. After all this, was Grandpa sending me on a scavenger hunt? Then I noticed writing on the envelope. It was Grandpa's handwriting. And what it said made my blood run cold. "Evelyn, if you're reading this, someone in our family has been lying for many years." I froze. Someone in our family? What did that mean? I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. The first sentence changed everything. And for the first time in my life, I began to suspect my father wasn't the man I thought he was. Before I continue, let me ask you something. If you found a secret letter from a grandparent you trusted with your life, would you read it immediately? Or would you be afraid of what it might reveal? I didn't hesitate. I kept reading. And with every line, the truth became darker. Much darker. I unfolded Grandpa's letter with trembling hands. The paper was old. So old that the edges had begun to turn yellow. For a moment, I simply stared at it. Then I started reading. "Evelyn, if you are reading this, it means I was right. You were the only person in this family patient enough to follow the clues. And that is exactly why I chose you." I swallowed hard. The next sentence nearly stopped my heart. For 27 years, someone has been stealing from this family. Stealing? I read the line 3 times. There had to be some mistake. Grandpa continued. "The person responsible is closer than you think." My stomach tightened. The letter explained that years ago Grandpa had sold a large piece of farmland. The money was supposed to be invested for future generations. But over time, hundreds of thousands of dollars had quietly disappeared. Grandpa spent years trying to find out who was responsible. Then one day he finally learned the truth. But before he could expose that person publicly, his health began failing. That's when he created the clues. The house. The notebook. The $12. Everything had been planned. At the bottom of the page Grandpa wrote, "The brass key opens a box at Fairview Trust Bank." I stared at the sentence. A bank box. Suddenly the entire mystery felt real. The next morning I drove straight to the bank. The key worked. The manager led me into a private room. A small metal box sat on the table. I took a deep breath and opened it. Inside were documents. Dozens of them. Property records. Bank statements. Signed agreements. And a sealed envelope marked "Open last." The documents revealed something shocking. Money from Grandpa's farmland sale had been transferred into several secret accounts over many years. Each transfer was carefully hidden. Each transfer carried the same signature. When I saw the name attached to those accounts, I froze. It was my father's name, Harold Carter. I couldn't believe it. I checked again. Then again. The signatures were real. The records were real. For years, my father had been quietly taking money that didn't belong to him. The man who mocked me. The man who laughed at the inheritance. The man who called me worthless. I felt sick. Have you ever discovered something about someone you trusted that completely changed the way you saw them? That's exactly how I felt. But the biggest shock was still waiting. With shaking hands, I opened the final envelope. Inside was a handwritten note from Grandpa. "Evelyn, by the time you read this, Harold will believe he has won. He believes nobody knows what he did. He believes the truth will die with me. He is wrong. Everything needed to expose him is now in your hands." I sat frozen in the chair. Then I noticed one final document. A certified report. According to the records, the missing money wasn't gone. Most of it had been used to purchase land and assets under hidden companies. Those assets were now worth far more than the original amount. Far more. My father hadn't stolen thousands. He had secretly built a fortune nobody knew existed, including my brother and sister. Suddenly everything made sense. The confidence Marcus had shown at the lawyer's office. The expensive vacations. The mysterious upgrades to Dad's lifestyle. The constant excuses. Grandpa had known all along. And now, so did I. As I left the bank, my phone rang. The caller ID made my blood run cold. It was Dad. For several seconds, I stared at the screen. Then I answered. His voice sounded nervous. "Evelyn, can we talk?" For the first time in my life. My father sounded afraid. And I was about to learn why. "Dad, we need to talk." There was a long silence on the phone. Then he asked a question that instantly confirmed everything. "Did you go to the bank?" My heart sank. I hadn't mentioned the bank. Yet somehow he knew. For a few seconds neither of us spoke. Finally I said, "Yes." His breathing changed. Suddenly he sounded nervous. Very nervous. "Evelyn, don't do anything foolish." I almost laughed. For years my father had treated me like I wasn't smart enough to understand anything. Now he was afraid I understood too much. That evening he showed up at my house. Alone. No Marcus. No Vanessa. Just him. The confident man who had mocked me at the lawyer's office was gone. In his place stood a worried old man. He sat across from me at the kitchen table. "I can explain everything." I slid Grandpa's letter across the table. "Then explain this." His face turned pale. He knew. The moment he saw Grandpa's handwriting, he knew the game was over. For several minutes he stared at the floor. Then he finally spoke. "Your grandfather hated me." "No," I replied. "He hated what you did." The room fell silent. And then, something unexpected happened. My father started crying. In all my 67 years, I had never seen him cry. Not when Mom died. Not during difficult times. Never. But now tears filled his eyes. He admitted everything. Years ago he had borrowed money from Grandpa's investment fund. At first he intended to pay it back. Then one lie became another. And another. Over time the amount grew larger and larger. Eventually he convinced himself nobody would ever find out. Especially after Grandpa became older. But Grandpa had known. The entire time. That's why he created the clues. Not to destroy him. To exposed the truth after he was gone. My father lowered his head. What happens now? I looked at the documents. Then at Grandpa's letter. For the first time I understood what Grandpa really wanted. This wasn't about money. It was about honesty. Family. Accountability. The next weekend I called a family meeting. Marcus arrived first. Vanessa came shortly after. Neither had any idea what was about to happen. When everyone was seated, I placed the documents on the table. And I told them everything. The room became completely silent. Marcus looked shocked. Vanessa looked heartbroken. Neither of them could believe it. The father they trusted had secretly betrayed the entire family. For years, no one spoke for a long time. Then Marcus quietly asked, "Is it true?" Dad closed his eyes and nodded. That single nod changed our family forever. Have you ever had a moment where one sentence completely changed the way you saw someone? This was ours. For the next hour we talked. Not shouted. Not argued. Talked. For the first time in decades, the truth was finally in the open. Then something surprising happened. Marcus pushed the documents back toward me. Vanessa did the same. "You found the truth," Marcus said. "Grandpa wanted you to have this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The assets hidden through those companies were worth far more than anyone imagined. Enough to change all of our lives. But that's not what mattered. What mattered was something else. Grandpa had trusted me. Out of everyone in the family, he trusted me. And for the first time in my life, I trusted myself too. A few months later, the assets were legally reorganized and divided fairly among the family. No secrets, no lias. No hidden accounts. Just honesty. As for the old Willow Creek house, I restored it. Slowly. Room by room. Board by board. Today it looks completely different. The house everyone called junk became the most valuable thing Grandpa ever left me. Not because of its price. Because of what it taught me. People will laugh at you when they think you're losing. People will underestimate you when they don't know the whole story. But sometimes, the thing everyone ignores turns out to be the thing that changes everything. And every time I look at that old $1 bill, I remember the day my family laughed. And the day Grandpa got the last word.